And we're off. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Episode 538 of the All Dolphins podcast for this Monday, August 11th, 2025. You may recognize a gentleman to the side of me. I'm not even going to pretend to know whether you're to my left or to my right. It doesn't matter. You're next to me. Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sunset. I've missed you, Perk.
Yeah, I know it, man. Y'all are on the road. I'm back home, but I'm holding it down here. I'm trying to do the best I can here.
And you're doing a great job at it.
Thank you. South Florida has not exploded or anything like that, so it's a good thing. Under my watch, things are under control right here. That's good.
Yeah, except you put a tropical storm headed in the direction of Florida. So thanks for that.
I did. Well, I do what I can.
Perk, of course, is on top of everything that's going on with the Miami Dolphins, as he always is. Obviously, watched the game on Sunday, the preseason game against the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field, which we will talk about from his vantage point. I already did the live post-game recap on Sunday, but didn't get Perk's take on it. And any sort of recap is not complete until we get Perk's take on it. And then we'll also discuss the running back situation, which was already, I don't want to say precarious, but a little interesting to begin with, and now has taken a turn. Before we do all of that, this is where I'm going to remind all of you to please like and subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. I do read all the comments, reply to some of them. And again, by all means, disagree with anything we say on here. Try to be respectful. No, you, especially, we don't know who you are, who are generally speaking, who are commenting. There's no reason to be nasty. Seriously. Don't say anything behind a keyboard you wouldn't say in somebody's face. Would be, to me, a good rule of thumb. But anyway, we digress. I appreciate anybody who cares enough to be watching this. So we have to start with the running back situation, which, if you're Dolphin fans, you probably know by now that Alexander Madison's injury against the Bears early in the fourth quarter turned out to be actually fairly significant. Underwent neck surgery in Chicago on Sunday, headed for injured reserve. And to take his place, the Dolphins had some tryouts on Monday, including Jamal Williams, who's a big name, formerly of the Detroit Lions, most recently of the New Orleans Saints. Instead, they wound up signing I hate to use that term because it may sound condescending or a shot, but it's not. I say this is respectfully, little known Aaron Shamklin, who has 3 NFL games under his resume in the regular season since entering the NFL. As an undrafted free agent in 2022. So, Perk, what do you make of all of this?
It's a shame for Alexander Madison because he was really one of the stars of training camp along with Willie Gay Jr. This is a team that had already lost Kader Kohou for the season. So now you lose somebody on the other side of the ball who is going to be a key player. As far as the replacement, yeah, I'm with you as far as being a relative unknown. I thought Jamal Williams was going to be the guy because of his size, because of his physicality, because that's what Alexander Madison brought to this offense partly. They also had Madison back there on kickoff return. So, he brought a dynamic that was led by size and power, which is something this team needed. Now it's on the search for that again. We'll see what Ollie Gordon II can do as far as filling that size power void. But it looks like there's more speed coming as opposed to more size coming.
Yeah, and I reached out to my peer with Pittsburgh Steelers on SI, Noah Strackbein, to get the lowdown on Aaron Shamklin, because I'm going to be honest with you, I know a lot of people around the NFL. I know my players. I monitor the transaction list on a daily basis. I will run down the entire draft list every year. I look at the free agency signing all over the place. I'm going to be completely transparent here. I'd never heard of the name. So shame on me for that, but such is the reality, such is the truth. So I reached out to Noah and asked him what kind of player he was, and he's somebody who will never be a starter, as a bottom of the roster kind of guy, will do what you ask of him. Very smart, because here it goes. He went to Harvard. And by the way, I don't know if you're aware, Dolphin fans, but Ryan Fitzpatrick, previous quarterback, went to Harvard as well. Did you know that, Perk?
I had heard something to that effect. Yeah.
So he told me, like, and they also can catch the ball out of the backfield, but he's not as big as Jamal Williams. If the Dolphins were looking for a back similar to Alexander Madison to replace what he could provide, not sure that's it. He's even going to make the roster, if we're going to be honest about it. And this is where I wrote on my story recapping the signing on Miami Dolphins on SI.com is I'm not convinced necessarily that they're done because they still have 4 running backs on the roster, which is not a huge number for training camp.
Yep, I agree. You go through these bodies pretty quickly as far as the wear and tear and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, and I don't know what the plan is for the next couple of games, Detroit and Jacksonville also. So, we're within a month. The opener is September 7th. But when you look at it from a snaps standpoint, there's still a lot of time left. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I would just like to see them get more of a power element in there. We'll see what Ollie Gordon II can add. But I really liked what Alexander Madison had brought to the offense. And I would like to see a 1-for-1 exchange from that standpoint.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute shame. And we spoke to Madison actually after one of the practices. I think may have been after the joint practice on Friday, and he was talking about his camp, and Omar was like praising him for his work and how he's somebody who actually looks better in pads. And even without pads, the burst he showed throughout training camp actually to me was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So moving forward, again, they did work out Jamal Williams. I don't know who else they worked out. The list of remaining free agents include, as I wrote, Gus Edwards was one of the names still out there. Zach Moss, Chase Edmonds, who the Dolphins brought in as a free agent in 2022, which didn't really pan out. But then a couple of the former Dolphin running backs got taken off the market over the weekend when Jeff Wilson Jr., who to me would have been glaring as a possibility, signed with the 49ers. Nate Noel, who started training camp for the Dolphins, a running back for rookie free agent, signed with the Colts earlier. And Myles Gaskin, if the Dolphins had wanted to go that route, signed with the Baltimore Ravens. So we'll see what they wind up doing. You mentioned Ollie Gordon the second. Your take on how he looked to you in that game against the Bears on Sunday.
I thought all the running back. I thought Madison was the best. He showed me the receiving, the kickoff return. Although he just caught the ball in the end zone, he didn't return a kick.
But he did that very well.
Yes, he did it very well. I have to look back and see what he did as a blocking back, but I thought he had the most complete game of anybody. Of course, Achane was good, 3 for 22. By the way, Achane, that's the second carry that he had. The first carry was negated by Larry Borum, the lining up, not on the line of scrimmage. That second run, Patrick Paul made 2 blocks on that run. He did a very nice job on that run. But I thought I digress. All of the running backs I thought did a good job. Ollie Gordon, nice showing of hands there, and I thought he made some good runs, but nothing that would have moved him ahead of Alexander Madison to me.
Okay.
Although, and the Madison did have the drop pass. Also,
he did, but you know what? I'm not going to dig him for that because if you remember the play, there was a Bears defender. It's going to be in his grill like immediately after he caught it.
Yep.
That was looking like an almost a 3-yard loss, and maybe Madison was outsmarting all of us and saying that's going to be a loss. I'm just going to drop it.
Yep, could be. Now I'll add this also about the run game. Because we're talking about running backs. Jalen Wright, the 3rd and 4th down attempts on that first possession. 3rd down, you see Sabianaya whiff on a block, and his guy made the tackle. 4th down, when Sewell, number 44, came through untouched and made that stop, you see Patrick Paul double team the guy with Jonah. And I don't know if that was a lack of recognition by Patrick Paul, or that's just the way that the play was drawn up by the Bears and they outsmarted the Dolphins. But, both of those are correctable. I think they could have scored. They could have run it in. Jalen Wright could have run it in, except he had some failed blocks in front of him. But I think they could have scored on 3rd or 4th down.
Yeah, well, and that's unfortunately that was a story of 2024 in terms of short yardage. It was always like a miss assignment here or there. And I said before, the Dolphin running backs last year also didn't help the offensive line. There were not a whole lot of broken tackles. I don't think that Jalen Wright had any chance on any of those. There was a swarm of Bears defenders. A swarm of Bears defenders. I say the TV voice on him, like almost immediately after he got the handoff. And he had, if you look at his numbers, he had, I think it was 9 carries for 17 yards, and 3 of them were good for 18 yards if you combine them. And then the other one, he's got thrown for some losses. I saw nothing wrong with his game. His touchdown to me was a nice run where he got through the hole very quickly there. Ali Gordon had the one play where he kind of broke a tackle line of scrimmage, although break a tackle. The guy was trying to reach for his jersey, and Ali Gordon was having none of that, and that resulted in a long gain. I thought he looked fine. I thought all the running backs looked pretty solid. Can't say the same for the quarterback. So, okay, go ahead. I'll leave the floor to you now, and let's talk quarterbacks. Backup specifically.
Obviously, Tua looked good, 5 for 6, right? 27 yards, whatever he had. Zach Wilson, he faced a big pass rush. He was sacked, I believe, 4 times, but you got to 4 times, yeah. But you got to make those throws, right? To Tanner Connor for the touchdown. The one to Julian Hill, I believe, was the first pass that he threw, lands at Julian Hill's feet. Zach was off. He was off. Although I will say this, I think he increased his lead from number 2 quarterback over Quinn Ewers. Quinn just, that was the worst that I've seen Quinn Ewers look. This wasn't the Quinn Ewers that we saw in practice. This was a guy who looked shook out there. Like his passes were off. The timing was off with the receivers. He made a couple of decent throws out there, but Quinn just did not look comfortable out there. And he did have some pass rush coming at him, not as much as Zach Wilson had. But I thought, if I was to give them both give them each a letter grade, it would probably be a C and a C minus.
You are much more polite than Dolphin fans, who I think would be, based on the reaction I saw on social media, I think Dolphin fans would be very quick to maybe throw out some Fs over there. Yeah, and I will say this in defense of Quinn Ewers. I said that on the podcast. Yeah, sometimes it's like, I said this Sunday that there were a couple of throws, and I don't know if he had other options and he tried to force things, but he was throwing to a guy who was really, really tightly covered. There were some missed throws. Zach had the same issue as well. And my biggest concern with Zach Wilson in this particular game is a lot of times it looked like he was zoning in. It was almost like he was spacing out in the pocket.
Yep.
Like the internal clock has to be going, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. I'm not finding anybody. I need to move, because if I stay here, something bad is going to happen. And this is who he was with the Jets. And this is what supposedly the Dolphins have been trying to correct. And if you recall the comment he made to us, I think it was either in training camp or the offseason, is they're emphasizing to me, get rid of the ball quickly.
Right.
Well, spoiler alert, that didn't happen yesterday.
Yeah. And you know what? And just in talking to the backup quarterbacks as they come through here, from Mike White to Skylar Thompson to Teddy Bridgewater, all the way through C.J. Beathard, Tim Boyle, they all talk about the footwork and getting rid of the ball quickly, that this offense is different. And I think it's tough for any quarterback in their first year in this system, first game in their first year in this system, which this was for both of them, to really be on point, because I think that they probably think too much. I got to get rid of the ball. Got to get rid of the ball. Got to get rid of the ball. And it's not natural. It would be ideal if Skylar or Mike White could have stayed here and they could have a second, third, fourth year in the system, but that's not the way that it worked out. So I'm willing to cut both of these guys a little bit of slack. But again, as you have pointed out, and if I've said, Tua's been hurt in September 3 times in his career. Like, these guys have got to be ready. And I'm not trying to be grim. I'm trying to be a realist here, that this could happen. They could find themselves in a game in week 3, week 4, week 2. They've got to be ready. So one preseason game, okay, I'm willing to forgive and forget, but man, starting in joint practice with this practice on Wednesday, I believe is the first joint practice. these guys have got to show some improvement, and the clock is ticking right now on both of them.
Fair, completely fair. And this is where we're gonna take a second to talk about a couple of former Dolphin quarterbacks, as you mentioned, Skylar Thompson and Mike White.
Yep.
And this is where we point out they both balled out on Saturday for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Buffalo Bills, respectively. Skylar had 3 touchdown passes, passer rating, I want to say like 128. And then Mike White had 2 touchdown passes, no pick, and passer rating also was well over 100. And this is where I saw some Dolphin fans suggesting that, here we go, because the Dolphins make their system too complicated, 4 quarterbacks over here, and then they go somewhere else. It's also a preseason opener, folks. So I would caution against premature evaluation, because that can be a major problem, and that could happen here. But the fact still remains that Skylar Thompson, the preseason opener last year, I'm looking at his numbers right now, was 8 for 19 with 1 touchdown and 1 pick with a 53 passer rating, and then he goes with the Steelers and 128 or 132, I think it was. It's a pretty major contrast. And any other news involving a former Dolphin quarterback I want to pass along is, for those who remember the Tim Boyle era, he's been released by the Tennessee Titans. So, but what do you make of Skylar and Mike White lighting it up in their preseason debut for 2025 with their new team?
I'm happy for each of them, but I don't think it would have translated into regular season success for the Dolphins necessarily. We've seen that with Skylar, right? His rookie year, he was like all pro preseason. And, and then during the season, it's not so much that. And, it was his rookie season. He did lead the Dolphins to the victory over the Jets, and he wasn't terrible in that 34-31 playoff loss at Buffalo. But we just haven't seen a backup Dolphins quarterback have any kind of extended success. And to me, it's either the system and the way that they teach the system, or it's that they can't develop backup quarterbacks. I don't know which it is. And look, none of their backup quarterbacks has gone on to a Pro Bowl season or anything like that. So let's not get it twisted. But I would like to see more success, or really, understand why we don't see more sustained success from the Dolphins backup quarterbacks, because they've been in 22 and 24. They've been in 23. Tua played all 17, but they've had chances and they haven't had success. And so I don't know if it's the player or the coaching, but so there's a disconnect there. Hopefully Zach Wilson can end that cycle.
Yeah, and I will point out, though, that one big issue with the Dolphins backup quarterbacks of the last few years, not to suggest any of them was a world beater, and I'm not even going to touch on Teddy Bridgewater because I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to read the nasty comments. But one issue, as I wrote on Miami Dolphins on SI.com at one point, is their backups get hurt too. It's amazing. Yep. Tua has missed 10 starts of the past 3 seasons. In 5 of those, there was an in-game quarterback change because of an injury, and that doesn't help. That's going to be one key. The other part of it, as you mentioned, is I think the last one who actually had some sustained success as a backup quarterback for the Dolphins was Matt Moore,
right?
When he was backing up Ryan Tannehill. And it'd be nice if the Dolphins had that kind of caliber of quarterback. And again, I'm not mentioning Teddy because Teddy always got hurt, so that's why I'm not mentioning him. Okay, since we're here, we're going to address it very briefly because I know some fans are tired of this topic, but it's out there. It needs to be addressed. The Athletic did its, through Mike Sando, its annual survey of 50 exec assistant coaches, coordinators, and all that good stuff, putting the quarterbacks in tiers. And then within that, also rank them from 1 to 32. Tua came in tier 3 and also wound up 17th overall. Any particular reaction or thought to that, Perk?
I think that's fairly accurate. Tua has, I think Tua, I put Tua in the same category as Mike McDaniel. Good, but not elite. Has not shown me capable of pulling the rabbit out of the hat when necessary. We saw it with Tua in that Baltimore game in 2022, right, where he just caught fire in the fourth quarter. But we don't see that type of magic from Tua often enough in December and January games, in road games against playoff teams. We don't see that. And I know that there's been injuries to the offensive line. I know there's been drop passes. I know the defense has allowed 48 at Buffalo and 56 at Baltimore. But I got to see something from Tua, some magic. I've got to see it from Mike McDaniel. I accept, Tua's Pro Bowl caliber, but now we've got to see that next level. Show me some magic, and we don't see it often enough. So I accept that ranking. I think it's accurate.
Okay. And to me, I think I discussed this before. I'm like, I can accept anywhere between 12 and I think 17. My initial thought was like a little low, perhaps. I'm thinking anywhere between 12 and 15. I wouldn't argue one way or the other. But again, if everything is going fine around them and the rest of the offense is operating as it should, Tua's going to get the job done. That's and the other thing I have said about Tua, and I don't know if it was you who kind of said something one time and it kind of completely a little light bulb went up in here, is there's a very low, very small variance to me between Tua's floor and Tua's ceiling.
Yeah. More
so than other quarterbacks, which actually it's a good trait because you generally know what you're going to get out of Tua. And then it almost comes down more to what happens around him, which is also partly kind of a shortcoming as well, because you'd like to have a quarterback who perhaps has the ability to help the team rise above the level of everything that's going on around the quarterback. So, but there are not that many who actually can do that. Josh Allen's one of them, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, who, by the way, was a unanimous tier 1, which may come as a surprise to a member of the Miami Dolphins media contingent, whose initials are OK, who always seems to question whether Joe Burrow truly is elite. Maybe there are 50 NFL exec personnel people who actually think he is. So let's go back to the Dolphins and the Bears. Were you disappointed that the final score didn't have an outcome?
No.
I mean, a winner. No, I'm joking. Perk, I'm joking. If you start analyzing that for more than 2 seconds, I'm very disappointed.
Yeah. You know what? I thought that I've still got the Dolphins as a 9-win team at this point, even with the Cater injury. Even with the Alexander Madison injury, and I thought what we saw Sunday was pretty representative of a 9-win team. That the first team showed some decent stuff. The backup showed some decent stuff, but both of them had some flaws. And so I think that what I saw was kind of what I expected to see from the Dolphins. The front seven, I thought, showed me some decent stuff, even though, understanding they only played one series, for the most part. Now, Kenneth Grant, I think, here's what's interesting about Kenneth Grant now after seeing that game. I think I'd be happier if Jonah was the first-round pick and Kenneth Grant was the second-round pick. That's kind of how I feel now. I don't think either of them was especially bad. Okay. Neither of them was especially great, but I thought Jonah was better than Kenneth Grant, and I think he has been all camp. But I didn't really see any surprises. We saw Storm Duck make a couple of plays. Isaiah Johnson made a play late. B.J. Adams made a play late, but he got burned for a touchdown. So we saw Grayson Murphy make a play. We saw Derek McClendon make a couple of plays. Grant had a nice series of plays, as you pointed out, and I pointed out, but overall, he's been so-so. So that I didn't see anything surprising either way overall on Sunday. Special teams made a nice representation for themselves.
Right? It was like, wait a second. Who are these guys and where are the Dolphin special teams? I was like, all right, that's rude. I apologize. I tend to be rude sometimes. But no, it was like very, very impressive. It was an A performance other than – I don't know what the hell happened on that one kickoff where Jason Sanders left it at like the 40-yard line. Yep. It has to reach at least a 25. So that was automatic first down for the Bears at their own 40. Yep. And other than that, I mean, it was like brilliant. I mean,
Yeah.
wow.
Cam Good had a very nice tackle on a kickoff, fighting off a blocker and makes the play. So, if he didn't blow out his knee against Baltimore, maybe that turns out to be different. Or Baltimore, not
No, it was Buffalo, and
Buffalo.
not only was it against
21-14.
Buffalo, it was on the play where Deontay Hardy returned the punt for a touchdown.
Correct.
To turn the game around.
Correct.
And if memory serves, there was another Dolphin player who got injured on that same play, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I think there were two players injured on the same play, and Cameron Good was one of them. And I've been a supporter of his because I think he's very good on special teams, and he's very solid and dependable when it comes to defense. You mentioned Grayson Murphy. Did you realize the dude played 67 snaps if you count defense and special teams? That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. I think I heard you say that on the podcast or something. But I didn't realize it. I had to look it up, and I was like, wow, that's a full game right there.
You had to look it up. It was like, here he goes making stuff up again. Typical Poupar making stuff up. I don't blame you.
Can't trust the Canadians. That's it.
Oh, there you go. Take this for what it's worth. Some people like those. Some people don't. The Pro Football Focus grades. Yeah. I can tell you had Kenneth Grant graded much higher than Jonas Abainaya.
Yeah.
They had Jordan Phillips graded very well.
Yeah.
And the film, according to my deputy editor, Dante Colinelli, shows Jordan Phillips doing very well as well. And he played, I don't know, about 20-some snaps. All I can say on this is I didn't notice him very much in terms of when I was looking at the entire field. I had my binoculars on him because I was curious for 3 plays. And on the 3 plays, he got completely neutralized by one Bears offensive lineman. So I guess I missed something where he was very effective, which is good. I mean, I'll be happy to be wrong and underestimating his performance. I didn't see anything that jumped out at me. I'm trying to think who else really. Ethan Bonner had a great play on defense, like blanket coverage, forcing the interception. It was interesting to me that he played the fewest snaps of any cornerback who was active. And, he's been making a move. He's been playing very, very well lately, which will make Joe Schad very happy.
What did you make of Elijah Campbell being the 5th defensive back to start the game as opposed to Mike Hilton? The 3 safety look. Iffy and Minka and Elijah Campbell. Do you read anything into that? Is that the way? Did that seep into September 7th opener, or is this a one-off? What do you? I think they're leaning that way.
That's very interesting. And my take is if Mike Hilton doesn't start, and maybe he's not making the 53, which I find surprising because I've always liked Mike Hilton. I think he's a pretty good nickel. Now, he had a bit of a down year in coverage last year with the Bengals. This is from all indications, according to what I got from the Cincinnati Bengals on SI Publisher. But he's a very good blitzer, and he's a very good tackler. So, and I don't know, and based on what I've seen in training camp, dude is still a very good blitzer. And I'm very surprised, but you make a good point. Could it be that that's how they're planning on doing things, because they went with their guys? Everybody who was healthy enough to play wasn't dealing with some kind of an injury, participated. The only 3 who haven't been out of practice because of injuries who didn't play, or the only 2, I should say, were Jalen Phillips and Jalen Waddle. And Mike McDaniel said they were dealing with minor stuff and they didn't want to take a chance, which makes perfect sense. So if Mike Hilton was going to, and he did play, why is he not starting?
And I saw if he played, I believe 22 snaps. I didn't really feel his presence out there, but he didn't mess up anything. I didn't see him getting beat either. So I probably have to watch the film again to see what he was doing out there. But he was, I guess, conspicuous by his absence or by his what do you call that? Low profile, I guess. I'm certain my vocabulary is
conspicuous by his absence.
I know. I'm searching for words.
And I'll have to obviously I'll have to rewatch it myself, and I will pay particular attention to Jordan Phillips to see if I shorted him, because the last thing I want to do is be unfair the wrong way.
He did have one play down near the goal line, I believe, where he shed off a double team and,
Yes.
made a tackle. So yeah, I remember that. He made I saw him flash a couple of times out there. Yeah.
Before we wrap this up, any other takeaways from the game?
Yeah, I did like that. I've said this about the Dolphins, that they need to be mentally and physically tougher. And I liked that they ran the ball that first possession, tried to bang it into the end zone.
Yes.
And I liked that Jordan Brooks got on Terrell Dodson in the joint practice.
Oh, he got on him all right.
Yeah, and as I read on Miami Dolphins on SI.com from the Teron Armstead podcast, that this was about Jordan Brooks trying to set a mentality. And you remember Jordan Brooks absolutely leveled Julian Hill in practice before, right? And so now Brooks sees that, I don't know if he's just trying to set a mentality or he's trying to set a mentality and he saw that the Bears were more intense. But I like the combination of Jordan Brooks and then trying to run the ball into the end zone. If it's a real game, you probably kick a field goal, or depending on the situation. Maybe first possession you do try to bang it in. Obviously, if you're trailing and you need the field goal, you kick the field goal. So, but I like trying to set that mentality, see what you've got with the running back, see what you've got with the offensive line. I like that we're seeing indications that this might be a meaner, tougher team, that Mike McDaniel did not play around with the new passing game with Bobby Slowick, the senior pass game coordinator. Of course, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle didn't play, but I liked seeing kind of a tougher mentality from this team.
Yeah, to me, it was a no-brainer. A, to go for the touchdown on fourth and go from the one, and B, to keep pounding it on the ground. Because if Tua does a play action pass and it's a touchdown, which very well might have been, then okay, you already know you can do this.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. And unless it probably went to NWI, or if Zach Wilson would have completed that pass to Tanner Connor could have practically walked into the end zone. You would accept that. But I liked and that was a different possession anyway. But I liked the mentality on that first possession of let's pound it and let's see what we can do here.
Or the other thing that would have been an option for me, if they weren't going to run the ball, is throw a fade to NWI.
Yes.
See if that can become an option for you near the goal line. So
100%.
Anyway, it ended in a 24-24 tie. The Dolphins will be back at practice. They're going to do a walkthrough on Tuesday. We'll be back at practice on Wednesday for the first of the two joint practices with the Detroit Lions. We'll be there to chronicle it all. Quick note, depending on when you're watching this, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Monday night. It's the Dolphins Collective with Doug Lee Durong, TD Finstock, Omar Kelly, and myself. The next All Dolphins podcast will be, when will it be? Probably Tuesday. Guest to be announced or to be determined. In the meantime, check out my man Chris Perkins' fine work at the South Florida Sun Sentinel at sunsentinel.com. Perk, what's the status in terms of the next Dolphins deep dive with Perk?
We're still up in the air on that one. We're still up in the air. So, stay tuned and I'll let you know. However, I'll let you know this also. My Dolphins season prediction and Super Bowl prediction are due by noon tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to do here. I think I'm going to stick to a 9-win Dolphins team, but we'll see. And it's not coming out for a couple of weeks. It's not going to be published for a couple of weeks, but it's due at noon tomorrow. So I've got to make a decision very soon of what I'm going to pick for their season record and who I want in the Super Bowl.
Do you have the opportunity to change your pick if a major development occurs between now and when it's printed?
Yes, we do. So if there's like another, when Jalen Ramsey got injured, of course, that was the second day of training camp. But yeah, if there's something like that, then yeah, we can change it. But I think I've left it alone. I think. Yeah, so it'll probably be left alone. We'll see what I decide.
Okay. Well, let's hope you don't have to worry about it, and then we're done. Right. We're done with the major injuries here involving the Dolphins. So check out the written content here on Miami Dolphins on SI.com by yours truly, myself, or that of my staff. And until we meet again, please like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your Monday.